I remember being told that there was a correct way to do the dishwasher, as there was the laundry machine and all of these many appliances in our house. And I remember realizing how strong my ex-husband's voice was in my head, and it caused me so much pain, because it was not a loving voice almost ever. It was a very judgmental, condemning, black and white. And in the black and white, I was always on the wrong side of that scale. So, and I did not know how to stand up for myself. So, those are the things that led to this workshop. And then I always have to say, and my mother. So I love my mother so much, and she is truly one of my dearest friends. And I have had to figure out that relationship, um, because she and I are very similar in many ways. And I am at age 49 learning to individuate from my mother. This is something, now that I'm a mother of teenagers, that I know is supposed to happen when the kids are teenagers. But I had a mother who let me know. She would say things like, well, you know the right decision, or well, you know what to do. And what that meant is, you know what I think you should do, and that's the right thing, you know? So, um, oh my goodness. So when I entered recovery, I went into my safe space, and I actually did not call my mother or have um, deep connective conversation with her. I don't know, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years. It was a long time. And this was a woman that I had communicated with multiple times every single day. It was such a codependent relationship. So that certainly led to this workshop. What is healthy communication? This is from the pamphlet for today. Healthy communication is clear, concise, and honest. Time to read. All right, I'm going to stop my screen share. Would you be able to pull up our pamphlet? So this year, we as a committee have decided to focus on CoDA literature. It's been so fun. I have discovered these little gems that I didn't know existed. This one, Communication and Recovery, it's a pamphlet. It's provided for free at coda.org. And it is what we are going to use today for our workshop. So I will begin the reading. I will ask for some interactive reading at some point. So, communication and recovery. Being simple and verbal are two basic communication skills that we need to develop in recovery. We seldom think about it, but what we say to others and ourselves, and how we say it, has profound impact on our lives, obviously. Our internal and external communication habits shape our thoughts, feelings, actions, and relationships, literally everything we experience in life. So I'm going to read this again, because we're going to do a time of the popcorn where you all get to share brief statements. I'm going to reread. Our internal and external communication habits shape our thoughts, feelings, actions, and relationships, literally everything we experience in life. So popcorn time. This is what we're going to popcorn on. First, we're going to make a list of what internal communication is, and then we're going to make a list of what external communication is. I'm going to stop that share. Okay, so this is bigger so our grown-up eyes can read it, and these are going to be internal, what did they call them, internal communication. All right, so what you all are going to do is you are going to raise your hand. I'm going to call on you. What are some forms of internal communication? This is the participation portion of our workshop. So I'm looking for some hands to go up. What are some forms of internal communication? What do you have for us? All right. So this is a very long list. In the past, some of you have asked for us to put the list on the chat. Thank you, as that's the word. Oh, we've got a couple more though. Okay. Let me see if I can do these simultaneously. Okay. Let's see. So we also have physical body responses. We have stress. We have silencing ourselves to avoid conflicts. Do we have any avoidance in the room? I'm an avoidant. We have our memory. Ooh, that's a good one. So we have both looking past and looking forward. Fascinating. And let me see if I missed any. Okay, no, that's it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this list of internal communication and I'm going to put that in the chat. Okay. I'm sorry, I don't know a better way to do this, but at least here, if you want that. Oh, my message is too long. All right, I will try to send that in smaller messages. We'll see if we can figure out another way to do that. Whoa, okay. So that's our internal communications. Communications, whoops, I'm gonna make it big. Let's make it about a 20 this time. External communications. All right, hands up. What are some forms of external communication? Those of you who don't know that, I mean, you can probably guess, just accepting breadcrumbs. And we all deserve a feast. I just want to say that every single one of us deserve a banquet laid before us. I'm going to pull these ones off of the chat. I don't know if I did avoidance yet. You can say anything as long as you say it with love in your heart. That one came through. Somebody did again, fight, flight, or freeze. It's interesting, those that showed up on both internal and external, depending on our perspective, you know what I mean? Detachment, external eye contact, super or lack thereof. I'm going to write sarcasm. We have again. I'm sure they didn't write that sarcastically. So let me see. Just give me a moment to. Oh yeah, you guys put some good ones in here. So we have gossip. Gossip. These are external forms of communication. Dancing. We have singing again. We have how we dress. Oh, I didn't think of that one. Excellent. Let me see. Sorry, I'm just trying to see them all. Ba ba beep ba boo. And if any of the other hosts are getting any, let me know. All right, I'm gonna cut off. If you guys can, if you're writing something, press send and then stop sending because it's too much. We could do this list into infinity. Gestures, oh, that's wrong. Waving, broken record. Sorry if I missed yours. Okay, so oh my goodness. I'm going to stop the screen share. There we go. This far exceeded any list, and now we are out of time. No, I'm just kidding. This far exceeded any list that I expected. And it's so interesting with the external communications. I was thinking so much about what mentioned, the things that are coming at us. And I just want to say this is not in the pamphlet specifically, but I think it is indicated toward like just being aware of what we allow to come in terms of what we're reading, what, you know, what our environment is, what people we surround ourselves with. And I just want to put a shout out to what meetings we attend. When I started in recovery, I assumed all meetings were healthy meetings. This is not true. And for that, I will say not healthy for me, because what is healthy for you might be a very loud meeting with a lot of crosstalk. I don't love that. Oh my goodness, that makes me feel unsafe to share my truth. So I just want to say that to me is a form of external communication. So, all right, well done, group, on those lists. I will try and get them into the chat. So, can you back up one sentence just so we can overlap a bit? There it is. Our internal and external communication habits shape our thoughts, feelings, actions, and relationships. Literally everything we experience in life. So, according to our lists, we covered so many different experiences, right? Indeed, poor communication makes our lives needlessly complicated. Not speaking up for ourselves and expressing our feelings in an open, honest, and healthy manner keeps us trapped in our codependency, a disease that for many members is a disease of silence. I know it was for me. So, I want to try to popcorn this. I don't know if this is going to be, can you go down a little bit? Although, you know what, I'll just read this since we're here. This pamphlet suggests some ways that we can free ourselves from our codependent communication patterns. We can develop a new awareness of our verbal habits and learn to make healthier choices about how we communicate with others and ourselves. So they're just telling you what the pamphlet is for. Can you go back up, actually, the other direction? So, what I want to see now, if we can identify in just a few words, I don't want stories here, people, can be just because of time. I love your stories and I think it's important, but I want to get into the in recovery portion of this pamphlet. So, what I want to look at is this line. Indeed, poor communication makes our lives needlessly complicated. And this list is, let's see, let's do 20 again. This list is going to be called Needlessly Complicated. Okay, that'll work. So, and you know, let's add it. Let's say how poor communication makes, let's do the whole sentence, our lives needlessly complicated. So how is poor communication making your life needlessly complicated in 5 words or less, if possible? puts me, I like that. I mean, I don't like it, but puts me in my will. Yes. And, I'm going to put, I think poor communication makes us lonely. It can make me isolate, right? Um, all right, this is a really good list. So we have done an excellent job of identifying the problem. This is why we're here. Now, wouldn't it be horrible if I left us here? I will not do that. We are going to move on. In fact, time to read. Okay, and we need to start where it says, what is healthy communication? Okay, I'm looking for what is healthy communication. There it is. What is healthy communication? Here, it tells us, people, right? The search is over. Healthy communication is clear, concise, and honest. To improve our communication, we first need to know our hearts and minds clearly. Codependents continually need to ask, what do I think, feel, and need? Somebody said that already, right? This is so important. Once we answer these crucial questions, we can empower ourselves to express our feelings openly and honestly without being controlled by our fear of the reactions of others. So this whole what do I think, feel, and need before recovery, the way I operated as a well-bred compliant, if you will, was you tell me what you think, feel, and want, and I will see if it's a good enough fit for me, or I will see if I can pretzel myself to make that work. If I can make your needs, wants, and thinking, feelings, needings, thinkings, if I can make those mine, then maybe you'll like me. Maybe then you won't leave. Maybe you'll be nice to me. But in recovery, I learned the importance of identifying my own uh, needs and wants. Now, this was very, very, very difficult for me. One of my jobs, I work with artists, and it's a job now I've been in about 25 years. And my direct boss has changed, I don't know, maybe 10 times in my time there. And what I was told again and again was no one else could work with all these different people, all these different personalities, um, and be successful at it. And I did take that as a compliment, and I suppose I could still. But before recovery, the reason I was able to make that work was I would bend over backwards. One of these bosses would say, on your way in, can you stop and get me a coffee? Can you run out and get me lunch? It was basically like, can you pick up my dry cleaning? That was not in my job description. My job description for this job was to play the piano and to support them. So once I entered recovery, I am learning, this is a hard one, to identify that just because they need or want something does not mean that I have to do it. I get to assess whether or not it's a good fit for me, whether or not I think it fits my job description. Recently, my current boss at this job, asked me to help him prepare for a musical role that has nothing to do with our place of work. Could he pay me? That felt so good. I said, let me sit with it. I was able to go back and say, you know what? I don't need to be paid. I want to do this with you, but not during our normal business hours. So, I took a pause, which I learned in recovery. I decided what I would be comfortable with. And then I did something outside the job description because it felt good. I get to decide, and I'm learning that. This is definitely a squishy thing that is sometimes messy, um, and I still sign up for things that I say, oh, I knew I should not have signed up to do that, but I'm learning. I wanted to share one other thing, and then we will take a break, just about this wants and needs. Let's go back to this one. Oh, we're still on that screen. So let me just boop, boop. Okay. So A few years back, I joined a Zoom group and we went through this 12-piece relationship toolkit. And if you'll see down here on the bottom, these things in blue I've written for me to remember to tell you. It says, are you looking for better communication with a partner or another individually? And I would say in recovery. I would highly recommend this 12-piece relationship toolkit. We've done workshops on it. It is a workbook that you go through the traditions with your partner or the person of your choosing, and you learn how to communicate better, how to have a better relationship. And it was invaluable. But my first several months in this group were so painful because my lack of ability to identify my own wants and needs paralyzed me in terms of my answers. And so I listed some of them. These are all directly from the workbook. This first one is from Tradition 1, and it simply says, can I tell the differences between my needs and my desires? And I remember thinking, I mean, I can't not only not tell the difference between them, I can't even tell you what they are. Do I ask for or expect others to fulfill my needs when I should or could be self-supporting? There again, I had to be able to identify my needs. Do I take responsibility for my own physical needs, emotional needs, financial needs, spiritual needs? Do you see the common theme here? Without being able to identify these needs, I would not be able to take responsibility for them. Do I need my partner to see and feel the same way that I do on all issues? So I just want to express the importance of learning to identify your needs and wants. And if this is an area of pain and struggle for you, as it was for me, that's a whole different workshop. I'm going to say that. But let me just tell you that that would be a good thing to meditate on, pray about, turn over to your higher power. My sponsor tells me about the 3 A's: awareness, acceptance, and then action. So if you are just getting an awareness that identifying your wants and needs is difficult, great. That's a good bouncing off spot for healing in that area. So let me show you this right here is page 1 of the worksheet of our, right? We have done this. There is no way we're getting through this today, but I promise you, when we recovery side of this issue, we'll do some journaling and more participation. But why don't we go ahead and take a 5-minute break? It is 42 past the hour. Let's come back at 47 past the hour. Thanks so much. Okay, are all my friends back? So I did put our very long lists of expertly crafted work. I broke it into parts. It's in the chat. I'm sorry, I don't know a less clumsy way to do that. Frankly, I'm surprised I got that much done. So, all right. So we're just gonna see how far we get. Someone did ask if this pamphlet is available online. Let me just show you. Where shall I go? How about I'll go to here. Okay, because we're gonna come to this in a moment. All right, you've got that. This is where it is. If you go to CoDA.org, this is a wealth of information, especially if you are new to CoDA. Well, all of us. Do you see all of this? Newcomers, meetings, connections, member resources. So this is under service materials, and it's right here, third down. These are all pamphlets that are free to download. I know we get asked often about sponsorship. Here you'll see sponsorship in CoDA, as well as 12 tips for sponsors. So there is communication and recovery. My computer's so very slow, but trust me, if we were to wait, it would pop open. Okay, it's trying. My poor tired computer. Come on, you can do it. Ta-da! There it is. Okay. What All right, thank you. What I want to do, this sentence really jumped out to me. Fear is the great repressor of the human spirit. So I wanted to rewrite that. When I have taught, been a teacher in the past for various things, I have learned that it is good to present material in a positive fashion, that our brains hold on to that really well. So I've turned this upside down. Fear is the great repressor of the human spirit. Curiosity and wonder are the great creator of the human spirit. So if we can replace our fear with curiosity, wonder, creativity, then I think that's really going to help us with this rather than letting our fears be our guide. All right, we're going to read a little bit more right where it says our communication patterns.
Can.
Thank you. I just want to say also, in terms of this, we fail to honor our precious thoughts and feelings. Um, I also, and this would be another workshop, but want to say that we are not honoring our inner child at that moment. Um, so every time we fail to honor our precious thoughts and feelings for the sake of pleasing others, we sell ourselves out as well. Our true selves may be in pain or furious, but we walk around with plastic smiles on our faces. I don't know how many other people in this room learned how to do that as a child, but to put on the cloak of everything is okay. Um, you would never show the only acceptable outer um, presentation was happy, you know? And so when I entered recovery, I thought my goal was to be happy. And, that if I did all of my recovery well enough, that I would find happiness. And what I'm learning is that what I actually find is inner alignment. And that is my inner child feeling acknowledged. I also find peace. I have spoken about days where I feel like the path of peace is very wide. That's what I'm looking for in recovery, and that is not what I was taught as a child. Woo. So let me go back to my. Let me just turn that off. Huh. Okay. Let me go back to here. Okay, we read that. Ah, okay. Popcorn time, people. This is going to be a fun list. So they gave us their list of weasel words, and I want to add qualifying words. Like I have noticed in my speech, I will say, I'm wondering if you could just help me just a little bit, or minimizing words. So we are going to make a list of weasel, qualifying, and minimizing words. Yeah, and let me just write on here as well. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Um, it is okay to take the pause and say, I need more time. Absolutely. But I just want to reiterate what I had said earlier about if you're on the fence and not finding peace with a yes, then it's a no. And that is hard for us people pleasers. Oh my gosh, it's so hard. Okay. So now we're going to stop sharing this screen. So to go back to what my sponsor taught me so early on, awareness, step one, right? That's the first part of it, finding awareness and then accepting it. So, and this can lead into a daily 10th step if you are at the end of your day writing down what during your day caused you pain. And if you're able to identify these words coming out of your mouth, just recognize it. And if you're in a safe environment, you can even correct it. And I think I have a screen on this. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So this list that we just made, these words are not my truth, right? It's not our truth. So what we get the opportunity to do, if we so choose, through especially a daily 10th step can help with this. We get do-overs, infinite. We can practice it. And if it's a safe place, you can correct yourself right there and then. My therapist and I will have practice conversations where they're so painful because he's me and I'm the other person. So, oh, him being me is so painful. So, he'll show me what he's hearing, and then he will show me a different version of me. And then we will switch roles and I will practice it. I will talk outside in the car sometimes, talk out loud in the car, having a conversation again. If I could go back, I would say this. Not so that I will go back and say that, but so the next time I have a different thought, I'm not stuck in that rut of this is how I react. We actually get to make a different choice, right? But we first have to have that awareness and then we accept, okay, that's a problem. I want to make a change. What's the change? Figure it out. And then we get to take an action the next time. I'm going to ask you to read this first paragraph, which is how do we assess our codependent communication patterns? Yeah, thank you so much. Leave that up for just a second. So here it says doing a written fourth step can help our communication. Now, I have a girlfriend that runs any aspect of her life that is causing pain through the steps. So I want to show you, I want to model um, a way that we can do this. I'm going to stop your screen share. A way that we can, okay, so I love this. The steps are the answer, always, always. There's a meeting here in Phoenix where I got sober and 5:30 a.m. meeting, and this man is there every single day, and he has one of those like dialogues where he starts his share with, the same words, like it's a whole paragraph. And one of the things that I'll say is if my life isn't working, I go up and down the steps and I see, where it's not working in the steps. And I didn't understand that early on, but I'm beginning to understand that now, that the steps are the answers always, right? So, and always is not a weasel word. Yes. Good job, Jackie. So what we're going to do now is just look at steps 1 through 3 and then get into a little bit of step 4 participation. So how can step number 1 help us with our communication? We admitted that we were powerless over, fill in the blank, over other people, over the outcome of the conversation, powerless over being able to control the other person through communication, powerless over so many things outside of ourselves that our lives had become unmanageable. And then I want to point out, do you remember that list from earlier where we were identifying how poor communication leads to needless complications? That is the unmanageability of bad communication, right? We made the list right here. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And in this case, that a power greater than ourselves could give us healthy communication. Part of my journey in healing my vocal trauma stuff and finding my voice, especially through my singing, has been believing that God could do this, can do for me what I cannot do for myself, right? For a long time, as I was trying to heal my own voice, I thought once I got to a certain point, then I would believe it. And I realized I was coming at it backwards. I needed to believe it first and believe that God could restore full health. So I just want to offer to you the opportunity to step to anything in your life. Come to believe that a power greater than yourself can restore, fill in the blank of that thing that you think could possibly not be restored. Perhaps God will restore that. So I just want to sort of open that window in your brain, and in terms of this workshop, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could give us healthy communication. Now, that being said, when we are in abusive relationships, which I have been, you can only meet someone at the health that they are bringing to the relationship. So let's say their health level for communication is a 3 on whatever scale we have. You cannot pull someone else. That's step 1, right? You are powerless over making them a better communicator. So you have to meet people where they are, and not expect that your brilliant communication skills that you will have now after this workshop are going to make all of the relationships have healthy communication, right? So all right, moving on. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives and our communication over to the care of God as we understood him. So giving this process over to God and allowing God to do the healing, right? Some of you have heard me say in the past, more God, less Jackie. Um, I've been thinking lately about thinking of God and Jackie as more of a partnership and not ridding myself of me, rather allowing God to infuse me, so that we are one, so that I don't have to say more God, less Jackie, just more of us working together for the good stuff. And in this case, it would be Jackie and God working together for healthy communication. All right, step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. So this is where, friends, we are putting up my most favorite document in all of our literature. If you have attended CoDA meetings, you have probably run into into the patterns of codependence. That's on the left side. Did you know that there exists this document that says in recovery? It tells us the solution, and I try to live on the right side of this page. So what we're going to do is we're going to journal, and what I want you to do is pull out your pencil and a piece of paper, or just your thoughts, and I'm going to go through and point out which recovery patterns I think scream needless, what did we call it? Needless complication in communication. And what I want you to do is just note the pattern on your piece of paper. We will not have time in this workshop to do a thorough journaling, but you can make a note of what sort of triggers that in you. So this top one, having difficulty identifying what they are feeling. We've already talked about that. Scroll down a little bit. mask pain in various ways, such as anger, humor, or isolation. So, doing a step 4 inventory on the way that you mask pain in various ways. And these are often unhealthy ways to communicate: anger, humor, or isolation. If we're masking our pain, that would make those unhealthy. And then the next one, expressing negativity or aggression in indirect and passive ways. We're just going to leave this screen up for a minute. If you go through each of the recovery patterns, you will see under each of them, there are several patterns that when exhibited would lead to poor communication. I would encourage you, if you want to work on your communication, to do a 4th step on the left side, the pattern side, and how that deals with your communication. So we're going to pause a moment. I'm going to invite you to journal. A 4th step would be, which would be writing out the ways your communication causes pain through anger, humor, or isolation, or expressing negativity or aggression in indirect and passive ways. All right, I'm going to pull us back here, and I'm going to ask for some sharing back on this. I will just share a little bit of my inventory on one of these. So masking pain in various ways, such as anger, humor, or isolation. This is something I have recently identified with my children when I correct something in their behavior or say something corrective to them. Then I immediately, often, will try and lighten the mood with humor, or rather than just letting them sit with that for a minute. So I want to share that. Does someone else have something that you would like to share around doing a 4th step on your communication habits? For that, thank you everyone who shared their wisdom around this area. I'm sorry I have not kept up on the chat. Although something interesting just popped up. JADE, justify, argue, defend, explain. So I guess that would be another way to do our inventory, looking for the ways we're doing that. So let me just say a little bit more about a 4th step around this, and then I'm going to talk through the rest of the steps. And then we will probably run about 10 minutes over, and because I want to walk us through the rest of the pamphlet, because the backside gives very direct, clear suggestions. And I just want to make sure that we get to that. But let me just read again. It says, one excellent way to begin working on this aspect of our recovery is by doing a written 4th step inventory of our communication history. So for me, writing down the areas that have caused pain to me or other people would be a way to do that. And going through those patterns, like what we just did, journaling on that. And then a step 5 would be to take this to someone to share it, a sponsor, someone trusted. And then a 6 and 7, what is so great about a 4 and 5 is that it points out, so great, and painful, so greatly painful, is that it points out that the areas that I need to release, the areas that are causing me pain or causing other people in my life pain. And I don't want to do that. That's why I'm in recovery. I don't want to be in pain anymore. I don't want to be causing pain. So doing a 6 and 7 to release these character defects so I can change, that takes me back to the awareness, the acceptance, and then the action. So the action would be 8 and 9, making a list of the ways that this has caused the harm. Either to me, I get to put myself on that list, especially that negative self-talk. When I see that showing up again and again, the list that we made of that internal communication, the negative aspects on that, um, I can make an amends to myself. And the way that I would make an amends is by choosing a different way to live, being kind to myself, forgiving myself for having treated myself that way. And then, making a different choice, making amends with other people. I have made amends with my children for communication. One of my favorite uh, things that I used, not favorite, one of my favorite behaviors that I have corrected, let me say that, is yelling to my children, I need a minute. Now, at least I know enough to say that, right? And then my parent removes myself from the room. I take myself to another room. They've seen me pace around the pool 20 times. I've seen my youngest daughter inside looking at me like, how long is it going to take mom to get back inside? But I know enough to remove myself before I do the damage. And then I can come in and do an amends. Working a good program doesn't mean that we never make amends, right? We will never do this perfectly. So when the thing happens, we make the amends. I think one of the most valuable tools for this is a step 10. And if you have your workbook, or if you just want to write down, go to page 133. Our CoDA workbook tells us very clearly how we can do a step 10, and they give this list of suggestions for I love, that's so CoDA, right? These are just suggestions for a personal checklist. And what is included on page 133 is, I circled the ones that I think have to do with communication. Am I living my higher power's will? Because I do believe that my higher power wants me to have healthy communication. Then right on our list is, do I communicate in a healthy way today? If I'm doing a 10th step on that every day, I've done the work. If I let my codependent behavior take over today, what was that codependent behavior? That takes us back to this list of patterns, right? Where on this list was I living today, on the left side rather than on the right side? We get to do that in our 10th step. Also a suggestion, did I honor my feelings today? So to me, doing a step 10 helps me make that, slow and steady wins the race. And this is all in higher powers time. But if I'm able to identify it on a 10th step, in my other program, my sponsor has me circle the patterns that are showing up every day, and those are the areas that I get to work on if I want to, lead a more pain-free life. So, and then step 11, bringing this to your higher power through prayer and meditation, of course. And I'm just going to point out that step 2 again, believing that you can have healthy communication, and praying for that in a step 11. And then a step 12, I do believe as our communication gets better, we are able to carry the message more clearly, more truthfully, more vulnerably, however we would say that word, that our connection to people around us becomes healthier as we do this work. And then that makes our step 12 more powerful. We'll go back, please, to the pamphlet, and I just want to show you all what's on the remainder of the pamphlet. There was one more area of journaling that we were going to do, and I invite you, can you go back a little bit to the part that has all those questions? Where's my piece of paper? The ones about childhood. Oh, it's right in front of me. Many codependents from dysfunctional families. Can we start there? All right, it's like follow the bouncing Mickey. There it is. Oh, go back down. And we're out of time, folks. No, I'm just kidding. So I do want to invite you to print this off of the internet web thing. It's on there, free for everyone. But here it shows how our experience as children can affect our communication, and it gives you the actual journaling questions Starting with, did our parents practice unhealthy communication? I love this one. If you looked, I don't love it, but were there family secrets? We had some family secrets, right? Like my dad drinking his wine out of a coffee mug when we went out to restaurants, right? That was a family secret. Um, can you go to the next slide? Do this so I can show everyone the whole page. Okay, because we're not going to be reading it, but um, if you see here on the top right, those questions continue. You can journal on all of those. Then it says, if we review the communication habits that once protected us, like when we were children, we might find that many of them still haunt us today, which means there's work to be done. Once we have identified the internal and external voices, we did that today, that are still damaging us, we can stop empowering them and start replacing them with healthier choices. So we are replacing old habits with new habits. As we continue our fourth step, we may find that other adolescent and adult experiences have influenced our communication patterns. After looking at our entire history through a fourth step inventory, it is useful to share our, I'm sorry, something popped up on my screen. Share our insights in a fifth step, and we did talk about that. So what I find interesting about this pamphlet is that it shows that so many things feed into our communication, and we brought up many of them: boundaries, inner child work, of course our step work, the work of the traditions, because communication is something that is constant throughout the day, either with other people and external communication, or internal communication with that inner voice, inner critic, or positive self-affirmations, as well as our prayer and meditation life. I think all of the work that we do in recovery can make our communication better. Then, how do we change our codependent communication patterns? And it tells us right there, and it goes on to the backside, and this is what I want to show you. The following suggestions may help us develop healthier communication patterns, and they have a whole list here. Listen carefully to our own thoughts and feelings. Sometimes delay our immediate responses, right? Take the pause. Monitor ourselves for weasel words. We talked about that. Prepare for difficult conversations ahead of time. We talked about practicing conversations. We can equip ourselves. That's a tool. Yet also being open to spontaneity. Use CoDA or personal affirmations out loud when we are feeling codependent crazies. Note self-effacing language such as I just, I guess, I think, I only. Know that if we change our minds about previous decisions, we can verbalize our current thoughts if we need to. We are allowed to change our minds, absolutely. Practice using different response words. For example, are we always just fine? Yeah, play around with it a little bit, let your communication be a playground. For you to try out some, or an experimental lab place. You can try things out, and if it's not a good fit, you can try something else or make an amends. Watch out for bargaining patterns. For example, I can't today, but I'll try tomorrow, when we know that tomorrow won't be any better. The next suggestion: speak slowly, firmly, and clearly when drawing boundaries. Avoid justifying or explaining ourselves. Notice how words such as should and ought might be controlling us. Note whether we try to control others with our words, tone, volume, or nonstop talk, or if we allow others to control us with similar verbal tactics. And this is where a fourth or 10th step will help you identify your communication patterns and areas that you might want to grow or change. Speak lovingly with others, our higher power, and most importantly, speaking lovingly with ourselves. And then add our own personal patterns to this list. So I'd like to conclude just by reading the conclusion here, because I could not say it any better myself. When we are able to say no without feeling guilty, we have taken a major step forward in our recovery. When we inventory our own weasel words and stop ourselves in mid sentence from using them, we have taken a major step forward in our recovery. When we catch ourselves before we habitually apologize for something, we have taken a major step forward in our recovery. When the day comes and we say, no, I'm clear about my feelings and I won't be going, and we don't feel a pressing need to justify ourselves, we have taken a major step forward in our recovery. When we speak clearly and honestly as we set a boundary and don't allow another's anger to control us, we have taken a major step forward in our recovery. And here is the end where we started, is where we're going to end. With time and practice, we will know. We will know when we have verbally owned our power, when our hearts and minds are clear. Our speech can be simple and direct. All right, so that's the end of the workshop for today.